Easter's other side, how the resurrection broke hearts before it healed them. In the village of Carenvale, where Karen flowers bloomed like bursts of crimson hope against the arid earth, Easter Sunday was more than a holiday, it was a reckoning. For years, the village had clung to a fragile peace, its people bound by faith in the resurrection and the promise of redemption. But beneath the surface, secrets festered, and this Easter, they would erupt with devastating force. Lila, a weaver with hands calloused from years of crafting tapestries for the church, stood at the heart of the village square. Her eyes, once warm, now blazed with fury as she faced Jonah, the pastor's son, whose boyish charm hid a calculating heart. Across from them stood Mara, Lila's childhood friend, whose quiet strength had always anchored the village until now. The crowd, gathered for the Easter festival, watched in stunned silence as the three confronted a truth that threatened to tear Carenvale apart. "You lied." Lila's voice cracked like a whip, her finger jabbing at Jonah. "You took the money meant for the orphans and blamed me." The accusation hung heavy in the air. The church's charity fund, meant to rebuild the orphanage, had vanished, and whispers had pinned the theft on Lila. Her tapestries, once symbols of devotion, were now mocked as the work of a thief. Jonah's face twisted, his usual charisma faltering. "I never touched it, Lila. You're the one who's been sneaking around at night." His voice dripped with defiance, but his eyes darted to Mara, seeking an ally. Mara, however, stood rigid, her hands clenched. She knew the truther thought she did. The Karen flowers, their petals vivid against the dust, seemed to watch the scene unfold. They were the village's pride, said to bloom only where faith was pure. Yet this Easter, their beauty felt like a cruel irony. The crowd murmured, torn between loyalty to Jonah, the pastor's golden son, and Lila, whose heart had always been Carenvale's pulse. Mara stepped forward, her voice low but sharp. "Enough. Jonah, I saw you that night by the church with the ledger in your hands." The crowd gasped. Mara, the peacemaker, had never spoken against Jonah. Her words were a blade, cutting through years of trust. Jonah's face paled, but he doubled down, his voice rising. "You're mistaken, Mara. You're protecting her because you love her." The accusation struck like lightning. Mara's cheeks flushed, but she didn't deny it. Lila's eyes widened, her anger faltering as she turned to Mara. "Is that true?" she whispered. The question hung unanswered, a new wound opening between them. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, some whispering of sin, others of betrayal. The resurrection, meant to unite them, was tearing them apart. Then came the twist. A figure emerged from the crowd. Old man Ezra, the village recluse, hobbled forward, his voice raspy but firm. "Stop this," he barked, holding up a tattered ledger. "I found this buried near the church. It's got Jonah's handwriting, not Lila's." The crowd fell silent. Ezra, who rarely spoke, had been watching from the shadows, piecing together the truth. His revelation shifted the air, turning the village's gaze on Jonah. The ledger, stained with dirt and guilt, was undeniable. Jonah's bravado crumbled. He sank to his knees, confessing in a broken whisper, "I needed the money for my father's debts. I thought I could replace it before anyone noticed." The pastor, absent from the square, was implicated in his son's shame. The crowd's anger turned to sorrow, their faith in their leaders shattered. Lila's rage gave way to grief. She looked at Mara, whose eyes glistened with unshed tears. "Why didn't you tell me?" Lila asked, her voice barely audible. Mara's silence was her answer. She protected Lila, even at the cost of her own heart. The Karen flowers, witnesses to their pain, seemed to droop under the weight of the moment. The festival ended not with hymns but with silence. Jonah was led away, his future uncertain. Lila and Mara stood apart, their bond strained by truths unspoken. The village, once united by the resurrection, was fractured by human flaws. The Karen flowers, symbols of purity, now stood as reminders of the cost of truth. Easter's promise of renewal would come, but not without scars. Lila began weaving again, her tapestries now depicting not saints but the raw, messy humanity of her village. Mara walked the fields alone, tending the flowers that still bloomed despite it all. And Ezra, the unexpected voice of justice, returned to his solitude, his ledger the spark that had changed everything. What does justice mean when it breaks the hearts it seeks to heal? Share your thoughts on where truth and mercy collide in this tale of faith and betrayal.